You ready?
Sure, let's do it, man.
Okay, it's Mongochatter number 11
11.
right now. Sam Mcnulty, and we're here at Ye Old Stomping Grounds.
Newburyport Skatepark.
Yep. I mean, I don't know. Whatever. This is all Ivy. We're at a skatepark. Okay, you'll have to trust us.
Yeah.
But what's up, man?
Not
Good morning.
much. Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
We're riding early. It's very hot already.
It is already hot. It's like
7:45 in the morning.
80, 81. It's getting hot.
Humid.
already. Humidity. It's not the heat, it's the humidity.
Yeah.
This is your new dog?
Yeah, we got Stevie in the background, so she'll be doing her thing.
She is a lovey. She's really cool. How long have you had her?
2 months. 2.5, I guess. Yeah, she came from Oregon.
Have you had pets before?
Growing up, I had a dog that would roam around this area a lot, come steal people's food, and he would bark. Everyone knew him. His name was Harry. He wasn't much of a leash guy.
Okay.
So all the people that grew up skateboarding here pretty much knew him, and he would growl at kids walking home from school, and sometimes kids would antagonize him, and he would like chase them, and shit that wouldn't really happen now, I suppose. But
Because you grew up like right over.
yeah, pretty much
Right
behind between the two schools, the middle school and the high school, right here. So yep,
And
came
now-
here an awful lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Very close to pretty much my backyard.
I think you were like the park mascot for a long time, in my eyes. Like
For better or for worse, sometimes. You know?
you were. I feel like there were so many times where I would come here and it would just you were the person who was kind of like guaranteed to be here. Like if you through all the eras, it'd be like you'd be like when you were a little kid, and like you'd be here, and then like as you like grew up more skating and had like your friends and your crew, you were here with them. I just feel like because I was like not living here but coming here whenever I was home to see my folks and stuff. So I would come here like intermittently, and you were like a constant.
Yeah, you'd be a periodic guy, and then I remember I didn't even know. I was like, oh, that dude's actually from Newburyport. You know what I mean? I figured you were just like, oh, like, you know, whatever.
Just a traveler.
But yeah.
Was there, when this place first got built, do you feel like there was a lot of people that traveled here? Like, to skate here specifically?
Yeah, a lot of day trippers, I suppose. A lot of, it was definitely a cool place to grow up skating because it was like the only concrete park in the area for the majority. I mean, other than, I guess Nashua was the first one, really. Shout out Butters. But
do we count Peabody?
Yeah, I wanted to say Peabody.
The Peabody pit?
I count Peabody because Peabody's fucking fun, and I guess Gon's has given it new life and new cred.
Oh, really?
But
I want to go there now that I know how to skateboard, because when I went there like 20 years ago, I felt like I didn't know how
we used to take the train there in like fucking middle school and go skate Peabody. That was fun. But to get not incredibly sidetracked, this is like, you know, airspeed skate parks at the time, like professional shit, like 10-foot fucking deep end, so there's nothing like that around. So a lot of like legends, like Boston dudes, like Seabowl guys would come up here, and
Yeah.
because it's like a fucking brand new park that all those old vert dudes can skate. So, you know, you got your Kevin Days, your Jeff Shanks, Easty, Pat Murphy.
Because at the
Those
time,
are just the guys I got to know too. There's all the other dudes that are like, oh, you know, then the other the background characters, if you will, that you just see over the years.
Your
And
dog bite me.
that's good.
At the time, during like when this place first came around, if you think about it, like you were saying, it'd be like what?
2001.
Nashua.
Yeah.
Was Stamford, Connecticut done at that time?
Definitely not.
So Nashua.
I don't know when that one was built, but definitely.
It was before, sometime between then and 2007, because I
Okay.
skated it when I lived in New York.
I have a photo of the plaque. I think 2007 sounds right.
So what? Besides like Florida, Nashua, Newburyport, maybe there's some shit in like Pennsylvania and New Jersey that I'm not privy to or don't know about, but I feel like this is one of the only like legit parks on the East Coast, the Northeast, for a while.
Yeah, and I mean, this was built. I was probably like I literally just started skateboarding pretty much, and just moved here where it was built and everything. So couldn't have come at a better time.
Yeah, really.
You know, fortunate enough to not have to, you know none of the crappy didn't really get to experience a ton of like the crappy 90s indoor skate park things, you know, the ones that were in PBD and everything.
In Hank's Alley.
Hank's Alley.
Yeah.
Named after you. No, but it's rad. You get to see all the old photos of like dudes skating the bowl there, and obviously Maximus.
Yeah, Maximus was a good one too.
And you know, even like the private ones, like that Chinatown ramp and shit.
Yeah.
That like Pete's got epic photos and videos from.
And Rats and
Yeah. So that was definitely like sort of like the backdrop that you didn't really get to experience, but like you knew that's like was kind of the evolution that led to the now all those dudes are like, oh, they're gonna fucking.
Yeah.
You see them rip some indoor park, and then they come other places, and then you see them around, and it's crazy.
It's always the grass is greener. Like, I see how it's better to have these epic concrete parks.
Yeah.
That it's just like, obviously the progression, the level of skating is going to be insane. Like, kids who now come out of here, like you and your friends are kind of like the first generation of kids to come from here. This part
To like grow up actually skating
Yeah.
transition,
yeah,
at least in this area.
and then like, you know, but so like that's rad, but then like with the 90s indoor parks there was a vibe
Yeah.
that's not really as easily attainable at the concrete public outdoor parks with like the soccer moms and stuff.
Oh, 100%,
'Cause it was
especially
a little
in a
bit
town
more
like Newburyport.
like subcultural. Like you were getting like, it was an event. You had to be like, dude, this fucking Saturday we're going to Maximus. It was an event, you know. So it was kind of like a little bit of a vibe that I liked, but also too before that it was just really a bunch of around here. It was like before it was cool, it was curb skating, straight up, you know, like plazas. Really.
Not fun, not like big red curbs either, you know?
Yeah,
like
no,
you have to
exactly,
wax
yeah,
them,
good.
and even if you wax the shit out of them, you're not going that far. My favorite curb was well, not favorite curb, but growing up, I thought the best curb here was the long one at the Maritime Ledge because it was kind of granite down by the museum on the bricks.
Like,
There's the two set that people would skate that was more of a ledge because you could like ollie on better that I could never really skate. The brick alley that goes down there, and there's the big curb. I don't know. Obviously, small town, you can't really skate anywhere without getting kicked out. And then they build you the skate park. So then they're like, oh, we built you the fucking skate park. And not to be
Yeah.
ungrateful, the skate park is killer and everything. But you're a kid, you want to go skate other shit, you know. Especially like, okay, you can skate the skate park all day. What are we gonna go skate at night or whatever? And we would. I'd have like friends sleep over at my parents' house, and we would wake up like a half hour before sunrise and go skate all those spots downtown until like whatever, like 9 a.m. when people would be there to kick you out, and then we would just leave and go home and like edit the footage we did all day, and that was like the funnest shit in the world.
this is a crazy question, and it's like, how could you answer it? But I'm gonna ask it anyways.
On the spot, okay.
When you were that age, like making videos, I remember you were always here taking photos too when you were a little kid. Like, where did you get your hype from? Because like I know your older brother skated and stuff like that, so like where did you had a certain level of hype that was like, honestly, like I felt like a connection to you. I was like, when you were a little kid, dude, and I already knew I had already been skating forever and was skating for the rest of my life, I could
Yeah.
look at you and be like, this kid's gonna skate forever.
Yeah.
Like you were just one of those kids that's like, he's a lifer already, you know? Because you were already stoked at such a young age, like taking photos and stuff.
Yeah. As
Where'd it come from?
far as well, like briefly like you said, with like, yeah, like my brother like used to skate, and I would like saw that from an early age, and at a certain point, like for me it was probably like 4th or 5th grade, that it's like, okay, like this is what I'm doing for fun with my friends now. So yeah, obviously we're gonna like just film it and have fun. And I didn't really get into shooting photos until I was like probably in 8th or 9th grade, because I just
Still pretty young.
no, I know, but I was just saying I was exposed to the video camera thing like way early, so I would film way before that. And then the photography was cool to get into because it's just obviously just like a still thing. There's much less production involved, and it's something that kind of like speaks for itself, and you can just like, cliche as fuck, but like, you know, you snap the memory, and it's like it could not be the greatest photo in the world, and then you look at it 5-10 years later and you're like, sick. Like,
Yeah.
you just get a million memories from it, and it's really cool.
Or like at the time, maybe it's like when you took the photo, you're like bummed about something in the background, but then
Yeah.
you go back and look at it 7 years later, and you're like, oh yeah, that weird lurker guy in the background,
Yeah.
and that was the day that like this happened.
Or it's like shit, like maybe like his knuckles are cut off, like it's not going in a magazine, dude. Like
Yeah.
it's fucking fine.
yeah,
But yeah, and as far as just like knowing, I don't know, because it's not always fun to like film shit. It can be, but it also can be fucking not that fun. And just knowing to like stick with it, and editing is sick. Like probably seeing like the stuff that like Paul Murray and John would do with like Wagon Kings and shit. Like that to me was early on like one of the more like original creative things you see people, instead of someone just trying to like imitate Jackass or something, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, these dudes are doing something like completely original that in a lot of ways like has nothing to do with skateboarding, but
but the
has the
spirit of
exact
skating.
same aesthetic and spirit and everything. And then they do skate too, so you come see Paul was like Paul was like the Gons of the skate park growing up, you know, because everyone like, for some reason he fucking already knew how to skate all the bowls. Paul is just already like a fucking, obviously he's older than me, so he would only be 15 or 16 at the time, and I'm looking at him, and it's, even if you look back at the old footage, he's got like just grown man style
Yeah, weird.
as a fucking teenager. Like Paul doing like ollie melon grabs over a shopping cart, just like, okay, like I'm never gonna be able to do that. For me, it just really like, honestly, I don't give a fuck what I skate typically. It's just kind of gotta have flow and have some sort of creativity and options.
Yeah.
And it definitely like, considering like where skateboarding was and how like the evolution of park building, it doesn't really have to be any specific thing, but I just think it needs to have like, just like I said, like flow, creativity, and just multiple options instead of like that's that, you gotta skate it that way. And skate park building, the professional fucking skate park builders have this thing down to a science now. When this place was built, if anyone knows the photos or can access the photos, it just pretty much looks like they were building giant sailboats. They hadn't discovered, or like whatever, they weren't digging down to build pools. They were pretty much framing everything, and it's a completely, it looks like when you see photos of people building bridges in like the early 20th century, when you look at skate park building from 20 years ago. It's fucking a completely different world, and it's rad. And in my personal opinion and preference, a lot of those older parks I have more fun at, because some of these new parks, it's just so dialed in where it's, everything is kind of spelled out for you.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not the 6 foot air, bust a back tail on that wall guy. I'm just like kind of cruising, gonna do my couple tricks or whatever, and I don't know. There's
Well,
like a lot of really perfect stuff out there, which is really sick that people are capable of that, and they're leaving their mark all over the world with these like epic things to skate. But I also like it a little crappy too, you know.
like Newburyport just feels like Newburyport. You know what I mean? It's its own fucking thing.
Newburyport definitely has a feel. What, like when you go to other parks, it's just airspeed wasn't around for very long, and they didn't build a whole lot of parks here. So that's been one of my favorite things about being able to like travel places out west. And there's a park in Jackson Hole, Wyoming that they built the same summer as this one.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's Bizarro Newburyport. It's wild,
Like we're like coming up on the 20-year anniversary of this place. Like,
Yeah.
In a few weeks.
which is absurd.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
for sure.
if you had to, you could skate here for the rest of your life and still find new lines. You know what I mean? Like, there's features here, dude.
There's a lot of features
You
here.
know?
Everyone skates this park in a different way, and everybody has their own lines.
Sometimes I feel like I spent so much time skating in a certain way without focus that for me now it is fun to battle a trick because I like the mental game of it.
I definitely have those days.
Like
That's
I like
not-
batting
yeah.
down the hatches where it's like you're like, okay, I'm real close, but I got to move my shoulder this way. You
Yeah.
kind of fine tune it. Like I enjoy that process.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Not that I'm doing anything crazy.
No, myself included, for sure. I feel like there's a solid like 3 to 5 times a year where I'll like envision something that like will be moderately challenging, but like you can fucking do that if you just try really hard for a little bit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then it's like that's the shit that like, okay, like sick, I'm gonna be hyped the whole next week because I fucking knew I could do it. And you visualize, it's just like, it's with anything. If you fucking think you can do something and you visualize it and in your head you make it happen or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff, that like positive thinking and stuff, it's like too kind of like going back to like the 90s era. Like as a skater, like it was like the landscape was like no one involved in skating like had a dad around. Everyone was like fucking crazy, and so it was like when people were like, just put your mind to it, we were like, fuck
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like we're like
exactly.
that's some fucking jock shit.
Yeah.
Like, but now you're like you try these things and you're like, totally
Yeah.
works. Like you
There's
know?
like a middle ground too, because it's like supposed to be a lighthearted, fun activity. You don't need to be, in no way is like, you know, like, oh, like some spiritual advisor to fucking skateboarding or anything. It's just,
Yeah. But I don't know, man. It's the closest thing that I have to a religion.
yeah.
Like, I hear what you're saying, and it is fun and lighthearted, but it's like that, some of us take that super serious.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
that fun is like the most important thing that there is out there.
Yeah.
You know, more than family, friends, health, anything.
Yeah.
It's like you have to have fun on a skateboard while you're alive. That's like number one.
No, and you get those reminders too from time to time. If you go on like I don't know, if you go through like ups and downs, like you never like stop skating, but just like sometimes you can feel like you're just going through the motion skating because like you know you love it and it's something you do. So like, this is what I do. I'm gonna go skate for the day, like whatever, and it's like maybe not the most like rewarding thing, and then you go on a trip, like a camping trip with some friends on like a weekend thing, or you find this new fucking spot or park you never knew was there, or you build something with your friends, and then you just kind of get that mental like wake up call, like, oh yeah, like that's what, you know, it actually is really rad, and all that stuff is always going to be there. So
That's kind of why I do like the podcast and the video stuff, is because it's like, it doesn't happen a lot, but if I were to get burnt on skating, it's like I can still skate but not skate.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like I'm not like, I'd rather edit a podcast than play EA skate. You know what I mean?
No, for sure.
Like I'm
for
still
sure.
involved in skating, but I'm just like, it's like sometimes my body and my mind need a rest from
Yeah.
the physical aspect of it.
For sure, and
You
there's
know?
other activities that you can do that are like stimulating, because
There
you
is?
can take the same. You can take this. I don't know. I think like you can take the same like attitude and apply it to something else. Like I don't know, like going for a bike ride. I don't know. I've gotten
Yeah.
like pretty into like riding a bike, and like my friend Tim, like you know, he fucking is at like a Timmy level of bike riding where he'll ride like 70 miles to the coast, and it's like he's planning some psycho skate trip, but he's just going for a really long
I was
bike
gonna
ride.
ask, so is it like Sans board? Just like go.
Sometimes, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And then depends, you can just incorporate, the skating is always fun too, but like you said too about editing, that's why it's like when I film shit or whatever, like I'll put it on the computer, but I don't want to like touch it for a long time, because then it's like you get, whether it's weather or an injury or just not feeling it, you have like, okay, like sick, I have something like creative and mentally stimulating that is gonna get me
Yeah.
a similar level of stoke and hype, because it's like, oh fuck, like remember that, all those like good times you had with your friends on
You
that
get to
trip,
relive
and
it
it's, like,
again when you
sick,
edit
that
it.
was cool, like yeah, and then you get to have it forever, which is the best part.
When you film stuff, or like be it you're skating or trying to get other people captured on film, it's like, do you have like, how concentrated of a process is that? Are you just grabbing whatever comes along, you're like, oh, I filmed that looks cool, save that can go on the pile of maybe to be edited? Or are you like, yo, fucking meet me here at this spot and we're gonna do this.
We're gonna get the
and
Bondo, we're
Yeah.
gonna get the generator.
Yeah, like, what's your
No, I would
approach?
say 85% of the time it's the first thing you said.
Yeah,
And that's
casual.
kind of how, like, I grew up doing it for a long time, and then it was like, it's like a bit of an excuse, but then like you get into photography, and then like technology changes so fast and everything, so it's like, oh, that fucking mini DV camera you had growing up with the Firewire looks like shit and it's obsolete, and I don't really want to buy a new video camera, so I definitely kind of like lulled out on filming for a couple years, which kind of sucks, because now it's like, fuck, there's like a couple years where there's like, I have all this sick footage from like 15 years, and then there's like a chunk of time where there's like not a lot of footage, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
But, you know, and then when like the iPhones got so good where you can pretty much just like fucking bring that on a trip and film everything in amazing quality.
Yeah.
That's when I would start doing that, and then I went on a couple trips and I just like filmed shit for fun, and then I realized that it's like, oh, I have enough footage to actually edit something, and that's fun. And so it's like, okay, like keep doing that because editing's fun, so filming is rewarding because of that. And then you kind of just keep going like that and try to just sometimes just use it as an excuse to like go places and meet up with people too. It's like, fuck, I'm not really feeling it today. I'll bike there with my skateboard. If I'm not feeling it, maybe film someone.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's like when you get into filming, it's almost like when you go out on a session, like you're almost just as hyped as if you get a banger clip of someone else. It's like almost just as rad as doing something sick yourself, because you're like yes, I accomplished this today. I'm now sitting on this footage. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You don't want to be the person who's like missing out on the good time because you're in the corner with a fucking camera trying to, and especially if like I always did it for fun and not very seriously, so I was never a big gear guy, but it's like you carry around the backpack with your camera, and then you got lenses and flashes, and you got like $1,500 worth of gear, and most of the time you're not always in the nicest place in the world if you're going on a skate, and it's just a bit of a liability and a bit of a hassle, and you're kind of jealous of the dude that's just pushing down the street with like maybe not even a backpack or a water, but you know, it's like it's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah. I find that I'm always like, I love filming and I love skating, and so it's like I'm like, I don't know if it makes me a bad or a good filmer, but there's times I'm like, I'm filming, and like someone's not making their trick, and I'm standing there, it's been 20 minutes, and it's like, I have to put the camera down and skate myself first.
Yeah.
Like I just gotta take a lap and then come back and keep filming. Like I guess that's like poor etiquette, but it's like, the top of that hierarchy is actually
I mean, I definitely can feel that way if, you know, say it's a skate park you haven't been to and you don't know if you're gonna really get a chance to go back there or something. It's like you definitely kind of feel that anxiety and pressure where it's like, I just want to have fun here and make the most out of it. And I don't know, I don't like pushing people to do shit either. I just want to like film it and have fun. If I'm skating with like a close friend and they're like doing something I'm stoked on, I'll be like, yo, fucking land that, like let me like film that. And it's fun. But you know, if someone's having like a bad time, I'm not gonna be like, come on, you gotta like stick it out.
Yeah. Well, you would
like,
never want it to be unpleasant for someone else just so you could film them.
Yeah,
that's like kind of, it doesn't, like honestly, I don't even think the footage would be good, because like you'd have to go back and like edit it and like relive it and be like, ah, man.
It's just for fun, just do it with your friends, so it's very rad.
It is very rad. No, that's like, that's kind of like, it's a balance between being aware of like, oh yeah, we're not on the pro level, but it's also like, if you have too much of that attitude, you'll never get off your ass and do anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it's like, if you're just like I was saying last night, like when you start playing in a band, like you have to suck for a while.
Yeah.
You're gonna play in front of 3 people, and if you're not willing to suck, then like don't bother being involved. You know, like, yeah, I have a different perspective on like filming and technology too, because it's like none of this shit was really around. I mean, it was, but I wasn't into it. And then like when the phone thing came around, it was like, in a sense, skating, like a part of skating, my skating had already like kind of come and gone, but it was like now there's these phones and you can document everything, and I never had the chance to do that when I was a kid. So now in my 30s, I'm capturing everything, and I'm like, when I'm 60 someday, I'm gonna go back and look at all these fucking chintzy little edits and be like, damn dude, when I was in my 30s, I was getting it.
You were having fun,
you know?
Yeah.
And like,
that's why I love the phone so much, because I was just saying about the gear. It's like, I think some of the quality of footage and just like quality, when I say quality of footage, I just mean like quality of memories, really.
Okay.
Where it's like, oh, like places you would have gone, like, oh, that like little river you hiked to with your friends on a camping trip. I wouldn't have fucking lugged a camera bag out there, but I got my little phone on me, so I was like, I filmed that. There's so much shit you get to film that you have the ability to just whip out a phone and film that. It's just like, oh, risk reward. Do I really want to like bring, I might get wet. It's expensive. It's just like whatever. It's like you get to do all this fucking really cool shit.
The whole like HD VX thing, like should you have HD VX? I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I got a telephone, and I happen to think that the 4K footage looks better on my phone than any of this fucking VX or HD or any of this fucking shit that I see. Like, I don't really like the look of that HD droney GoPro-y shit.
No, I know.
And VX is nostalgic, but it doesn't really look as good as a 4K.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm just like, the phone
And what are you
is
gonna,
kind of
you gonna pay like $20 for like a 5-pack of tapes that have been obsolete for 15 years to have some? It's just, I don't know.
Well, I mean, and it's
it's a great look, and that is fucking.
If you're dedicated
skateboarding.
to it,
Yeah.
like as an aesthetic, like that's super cool. You
Yeah.
know, like that's fucking.
And if you're like a legit filmer, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like that's fucking cool. But at the same time, you're fighting a losing battle.
But that's what I'm saying, Sam. Is like
Like-
what is legit? Like, is fucking. You know what I mean? Like, to me, my iPhone video is just as legit as a fucking Zero video that they made with a generator. Like, I don't fucking care if these dudes happen to be well known and they're skating handrails. This is me and my friends skating curbs, and like I'd rather watch that.
It's more
even,
meaningful
Like,
to
I'd
most
rather
people.
watch some random crew skate a curb than a bunch of pros just skate porn, bang a rail, bang a rail, bang a rail. It's like that shit's like whatever, you know. Like, we've seen that, we get it.
Oh, I agree. That's why it's just like desensitizing the level of skateboarding. That is crazy, but like it or not, that's like the standard. So those people can afford to, take certain liberties.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we're filming on HD, we're filming on VX, but it is what it is.
And the word standard, I think it's more like you can apply that to an industry, like on a professional level. Like, this is what the pros do.
Yeah.
But as amateurs, as enthusiasts, to shit on ourselves for not being on the pro level, just like we don't shit on ourselves for not being able to skate like the pros.
Oh, yeah, no,
So
it's
why do we
it's
shit on
super fucking
ourselves for
dumb.
not being able to film like the pros?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
That's dumb, and that's a wild expectation to be like, oh, I don't know. I don't feel like that's a thing anymore, but I feel like that used to be a thing growing up when like skate videos were way more popular, and just this era of skateboarding where all these like epic videos were coming out, and then like you'd make your own video, and then there'd be some like douchebag kid in your fucking school that was like also a skate park, that was like a shitty 411 or something, and it's like, sorry, no pun intended, we're not making a flip video or fucking the DC video, you know what I mean?
really, you had
Sorry.
people shit on you directly like that? Like, fucking fuck with you? I mean, they probably do behind my back, but I've never been.
Just in like a friggin', just in like a dickhead little kid way that fucking kids are dicks to each other, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
nothing serious or anything, but yeah, just fucking,
It's
you
funny.
suck, mine's better, or like whatever, I don't know.
It's just such a weird
That's not-
paradigm
yeah.
because it's like people like at the same time, people like, dude, I could go on and on. Like, people are like, they don't want to be filmed because they feel like they're not good enough to be on film, and it's not done properly. It's not HD. It's not fucking with Jenny's. It's not legit. The skating's not good. Why are you gonna film me at my local curb? Da da da.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like if you take that attitude, like you would never. Like I said before, you wouldn't do shit. If you take it that serious enough to be bummed for not being good, then why not just not take it serious at all and do whatever you want? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or like when people, it's almost like when people too, when they're like, it's kind of back to a cool guy thing where it's like, yo, people will do something, like a friend will do a trick, and you're like, if they're the homie, like whatever, but it's like sometimes you'll just like be like, yo, let's do that again, let's film it, and they're like, they kind of pretend that they're over it. They're like, oh no, like don't film that.
Yeah.
Like it's like, I just shit that out. I could do something better. It's like, dude, just
Throwaway footage or whatever.
yeah. Or like when people put like some crazy banger on like an Instagram story. Like
Yeah.
I kind of think stories are whack like that for tricks. I'm like, dude, post that. Like that's fucking, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's like I get that.
Or keep it and post like 5 tricks in a fun little edit or something.
Yeah.
I mean,
I feel like the attitude behind it is like, I'm so good, I'm just putting the craziest trick on my story. Like, fuck it, you know? And it's just like, I don't know, man. Like, let's just be humble and have fun. you know, and like be like, dude, everyone's good at skateboarding, so let's just admit that we're like all good and it's all good.
Yeah.
And just have fun.
We're all good and no one's that good at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And any one of us could do whatever we want. Like if we wanted to be better at a trick, we just have to spend an afternoon and fucking do it. It's up, you know, it's like, that's all skating is. It's just like an attitude. So I when people get skittish about filming and like how like they're perceived or presented in the modern fucking blogosphere, it's just like fucking whatever, you know? Like I kind of want to document every day that I have of skating, so that when I'm one day old and brainless, tripping on psilocybin mushrooms legally, I can look back and go, oh man, dude, I was
that
doing
curve really
something with my
moving, or
life,
is the,
you know? Like I actually did something with my life every single day. I don't know.
Like you said, like you're doing it for yourself mostly, not in a shameless like self-promotion way, but it's just like a time capsule.
Yeah, it's also too, for me being the age I am and like kind of like the gap in technology and like you know, around the time of the video era, I in a way sort of tuned out from skating. Like I got really into playing music and had a serious girlfriend. Like that was like my early 20s. I was kind of I was obviously skating, but I was kind of dabbling in other worlds.
I feel like I met you too when you were like coming right back out of that, when you guys were doing like the clothing thing and you were coming here more.
Yeah.
And you were like writing a bunch, and it's just like you had your what's the expression? I don't know. I feel like you were dipping your toes in a lot of different waters, and you were like kind of just being like, oh, like experimenting with different creative shit, which is fucking rad, because that's how you find, you know, and then you can kind of
like I came back to skating hard.
Come back to center and incorporate all those other little things.
Yeah, but no, I mean, because of that, I had never really seen myself skate before. Like I had never really seen footage of myself. So when Instagram came around, I was like fascinated. I was like, I have a computer in my pocket and I can fucking film me and my friends skating and make these little quirky videos. And dude, I get to fuck with music, which is my other thing. So like editing
that's
with
a
music
big part
and skating
for me.
is like,
That's like my
orgasmic.
That's like my favorite thing to do, is just like figure out the music, but it's also the most like second guess thing, where it's like it takes a while to work on something and then you're kind of sick of the song and you'll make something and you'll be kind of stoked on it, and then you'll watch it like a month later and it's like, fuck, I'm bored of this. And then it's like the best part, but it's also the biggest like sort of hurdle to find something that you think like, because you're gonna attach that to your footage and you want it to be good.
Yeah.
Or at least like entertaining. That's like the worst thing in the world. You don't want someone to get like bored watching your shit, you know?
Yeah.
Or you don't, you know.
Do you have a certain way that you do it? Like, is it like, are you like, I want to use this song, or do you put the footage together and you like wait for the vibe of the song? Or?
If I'm listening to music and there's like, I feel like everyone is like, oh, that song would go fucking sick in a skate video. And then you have to realize, okay, like, what kind of skating is it? That song, I have all these songs in my head that'd be like, oh fuck, if I ever made a part for like Reynolds or like someone like, oh, like if this was like a banger, that song would be fucking sick. But that is not, you know, like, that's not that, you know? So yeah, like certain songs that you think would be fun for you, and then maybe just like save it, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And
yeah,
I like to, you know, when I make something, I'll sit on it and then try to fuck with it a bunch and get bored of it and change it. And I think eventually it settles, and either you're like, oh shit, what a kook, that was a lame song, why'd I put that in there? Or like, whatever.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
I always, or one thing I'll do a lot is like, cause like, it's hard for me to zero in on a song because I feel like so many songs work well. So I'll like see how long the part is or the segment. If it's 4 minutes and 39 seconds, I'll go through my little iTunes and set the parameters to like time.
For sure.
And I'll hone it down to that zone.
Okay,
like,
I've done that before too,
like
for sure.
What songs are like right around 4:39, you know?
Yeah. It's a good way to set so you don't like over edit and have to like control your content a little bit, because you gotta like cut shit out too.
Yeah.
That's like the balance too, is like, okay, I'm not trying to make a fucking pro video. I want to make it like fun stuff with my friends that I'm gonna remember. So I'm not gonna like necessarily cut something out because it wasn't pristine if I think it's rad. But at the same time, that's kind of why you save your raw footage too. I don't need like every single fucking trick. It is what it is.
Yeah.
What I usually say, and sometimes this spawns like another 40 minutes of conversation, but what I'll usually do at this point is I'll be like, is there anything that you want to say to me or the world or yourself? And you would say, that's heavy.
I will leave the talking to the world for another day.
Okay.
That's a wild. Anything you want to say to the world? There's a lot going on in the world right now.
Well, anything you say, you are saying to the world.
Damn. Talk about putting you on the spot right there.
No, I don't know. I just that's been these podcasts. That's been the one standard question. Is like, is there anything you want to say to me, yourself, or the world? There's got to be. I'm sure we can get a kernel of conversation out of
Well,
this.
okay. Well, I mean, we'll start with you because you're here, and that's the easiest thing. Anything I want to say to you? I just think that I have always more or less appreciated your creative endeavors and more or less the like the passion and the approach behind them. Because like what I was saying when we first met, it was like you were dipping your toes in a lot of different things. You were doing like a clothing thing, you were writing for ESPN, and I've always thought you were like a good writer. And in some ways, the podcast thing is kind of different, but I think mentally it's probably an extension of like a conversation version of what you could potentially write. And I just think that's rad. I think
Thanks,
a
man.
lot of people can be capable of shit like that, but just like the sticking with the creativity and like knowing that like you're not going to be super hyped on every fucking thing you do, but it's also a vehicle to like keep going, because it's nothing sadder when you see like people you like just kind of acquaintances you grew up with, skating or not, or friends, and they just kind of get lost and sidetracked, being like, oh, you used to do a lot of really fun things that made you happy, and now you just have all these excuses that, you know, and life happens for a lot of people. But it's also, I think it's important to like try to like appreciate what you know makes you happy.
Yeah.
And fucking at least carve out enough time to attempt to stay sane.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that ship has sailed as far as sanity, but I think
For all of us.
Some people just, and it's like it's not to be romanticized. It can also be like almost like a torturous thing where it's just like there's a compulsion to be creative, and you have to, and it doesn't matter. You might make a crappy podcast or a shitty video that 30 people are going to watch, but it's like you have to do that in the same way that you have to skate or breathe. You know what I mean? It's like it's just it's a compulsion. So like, thank you, but I sort of just feel like it's not really necessarily a drive that I'm like committed to. It's just like a compulsion, as it's like almost like automatic. Like I have to be involved in doing something, or like I don't have kids or a dog or a girlfriend or anything really to pull my time away from the regular mundane and then skating. So it's just like I don't know. I think it's important for humans to be creative, and some people can be creative in their day-to-day 9-to-5 work, the way that they do that, and some people can paint the Sistine Chapel. You know, it's like there's creativity everywhere, wherever you make it, wherever you find it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have anything to say. Thank you. I've just got to keep going and keep doing stuff, and likewise, it's like honestly, it's people like you who like I consider my peers, like in the world of skateboarding, who are like also, you know, in a way kind of committed to doing something cool, like making a video or just like some type of, it sounds so cheesy to be like giving back to skating, but it's like I think of skating as like this big pile of content, and it's like you kind of throw something on the pile, you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, in that respect.
And that's your little stamp on it. And I think it's maybe if people haven't done that have been into skating, and you know, skating's inherently creative, the act of skateboarding,
For sure.
but maybe people that haven't expressed themselves, like made a zine or done a video or whatever, that's like another world in skating to kind of be explored. It's like another avenue, another extension of skating.
Yeah.
You know?
And I don't think everyone needs to do their own necessarily individual thing. I think it's really rad when you see people like collaborate on stuff with your friends. You know what I mean? It's like, that's why it's like, it's one of the many reasons I'm like stoked on being home right now. You get to see a whole different group of like friends that you usually like skate with, and then like you get to like maybe like hopefully like film them and have some good sessions and times, and then it's like, okay, it just really helps round everything out, because I just want like as many rad people around as possible. And I'm fortunate enough to grow up in a pretty small, tight-knit place where, you know, skateboarding wasn't necessarily like a mainstream thing. It's just weird living on the West Coast where it's like, you know, it's like, oh, surf skate culture. It's like part of the identity and the culture, and which is like very rad, but it's also like very culture shockish when you grow up somewhere where it's just not that. And not to say it's like not a big part of your identity, but it's just like your identity. It's composed of a lot of other things, and it is kind of a unique thing. And then it's a weird sort of personal grapple when it's like just as mainstream as like the kids that would play football practice there. You know what I mean? It's not. Do
you feel like let's talk about that a little bit. Like I found it galvanizing and off-putting at the same time. Like I'd be like, yes, I'm surrounded by skateboarding, it's rad, but at the same time, there's like maybe a little bit part of it that's like it's a little bit less special, it's a little bit less subcultural, it's a little bit less kind of guarded and like held on a higher, like in California it was like Little League, like everyone could rip, everyone had a setup in their garage.
Everyone out there is so fucking good too. It's
and it was just like, it didn't, maybe, I mean, I know there's a skater's a skater, but it was like people could dabble in skating and be good at it without being like into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that doesn't, maybe now so more days
yeah,
with
no,
the skate
but
parks?
yeah, nowadays differently, but I think it was more something you kind of had to dive into back in the day, just because it was just much more niche. It wasn't like, oh, you get to try everything. Like, oh, you pick up a baseball glove, go fucking, I don't know, swimming, basketball, whatever. It's not just like open your kid's toy chest and there's everything. You know what I mean? Most kids don't just typically have a skateboard around.
Right.
Now, you know.
And it's like, it's
just a driveway toy.
It's like multi-generational too, where it's like you're friends with fucking dudes in their 50s, dudes that are 10, you know, whereas like now it's probably just like, you know, you have you got your homies, and it's like, that's who you roll at the park with, you know, like, I don't know. It was weird to me when I was in Seattle, and it was like, I'd be like pushing down the street and people would like get out of the way. Like pedestrians, they'd be like, "Oh, skateboarder!" Like it was like,
not in that way.
Yeah, no, like
you
totally
pass for a
like,
biker. Courtesy.
Yeah, courtesy. And I was like not used to that. Like coming from Boston and New York, people would be like shaking their fist at you. You know?
Being physically present in a place that there's such a huge, just very skate-oriented community and culture and everything. Like, it was really cool to be like, have like a little spot for yourself to be like, okay, like this is like. Because like growing up here and just knowing a lot of older dudes that like kind of helped show us the way, having that same feeling somewhere totally different, where it's like, oh, like we actually build this like for ourselves, and that's like to me like a very huge part of like the satisfaction of fuck, like we built this little bank to curve. It's actually really fun and like 10 times more juiced when it's like, okay, like we fucking kind of paid for this, and it's probably a little lumpy and not perfect, but like, you know.
That's kind of how you want it anyway.
I mean, it's, yeah, because it's like a DIY spot too, and I think when we were younger, we had spots that we were just so like all in, and like it was like such a like didn't have anything else to do. We were so into it. We were learning a lot, so it's like you don't stop to think that like, oh, it's just gonna get torn out eventually. Where it's like finding the balance of making it good and rideable and worth your time making, but also like you're not building a skate park.
Right.
So it's like, it's only gonna hurt more when it's gone if you're like, oh, you know, I don't know.
And is that, as you're building it, like I feel like it's like So the nature of life is like it's finite. So it's like anything within life is essentially finite. So it's like when you're building it, like you have the sense that you're building a sandcastle, that the water is going to come, and you know what I'm saying? Like
I do. That's
DIY is kind of
that's
doomed
actually
in a way. Like
for sure.
You know,
and that's kind of like
not doomed. You know what?
No, I know what you mean, and that's kind of something that you just have to like see over time.
Yeah.
Of like, okay, you kind of like everyone says it, and it's kind of like a cliche, especially out there, because everyone is like DIY or die, you know. But you have to just like kind of see it firsthand to experience like, like it's like I don't know, a little like heartbreak, like fuck, it's gone, and then it just kind of you carry that with you, and it helps you plan other things.
Do you know Clayton Grawl?
No.
This dude I know, he lives in LA. He does like urban skate DIY. It's like a
Instagram account?
handle.
Is it the skate DIY or urban skate DIY?
I
don't know.
I think it's urban skate
there's a couple
DIY.
of those.
But anyways, dude, he kind of made a name for himself in LA because he was doing DIY street spots, like DIY builds.
Like building like street obstacles though?
In the streets, like not like finding a secluded bummy parking lot and building something and hoping that it's there for a week. Like going at 4 a.m, building something on a sidewalk.
Yeah.
It gets skated for an afternoon, and then the city takes it out. And it's
That's
like
rad.
the clips exist, but the spot's dead in like 2 days, you know. And like this dude, like was like he won't be deterred. Like he's dedicated to like holding that down and like not getting like. That's so disheartening, right? Like you build something and it's gone, but he's just like, that's what happens.
And it's rad too. It's like, like that photo or a video, and you know you just had such a small amount of time to do something, and it's like, you made it happen, and it's gone, and you're never gonna get the chance again.
Yeah.
So you have to just fucking take it, which is super sick.
Like Duck Island in Seattle, that was one that was like there and gone, and it was
Is that
like
the one that they got sued over?
Yeah. So it was like, while that was there, I don't know, I feel like FOMO, like if you didn't go skate that thing, you were never gonna skate that thing.
Yeah.
So like, it was up to you to fucking, you know, get your ass out to that little island.
The sense of urgency is real.
Yeah. Even over here at Express Video, like during quarantine, they had all these fun boxes in jank and setup out there, and it was like, I just wanted to skate there because I knew that things were gonna open up again and that shit was gonna be gone.
Yeah, you can come to a skate park whenever you want. If you get the chance, definitely get it in while you can. Whether it's like a scary spot that you're gonna get kicked out of, or not that I'm skating many of those, but like,
well, just to kind of wrap it up, to kind of like bring it full circle to what we were talking about before too, like the generational thing is like, I have always regarded like what you and your homies kind of like got into like out at the old highway. Like you guys were kind of like the first, you were at a point in time in skating and the history of skating and Northeast and everything that was happening here where you just got access to that influence of the DIY movement.
it was a coming of age. It was a coming of age time, but it kind of was in the sense that like myself and like Al and other friends were like old enough and like
and skating it already existed in skating.
Exactly, and like dudes like older influences like Tom and Noah were like getting older, and like Tom had just had a kid, so they were like around more and not as traveling and building as they were more around to actually, instead of just like tell us how it should be, like show us how it should be.
Sure.
And then that was like the first thing we built. The first couple things we built were like shitty and crumbly, and then they fucking came and helped us, and that's, you know, kind of helped. And then like, you know, Paul Murray got fucking dove in head first too, because he already had the ceramics background and just hyper creative as well, you know, more so than a lot of other people. And then so we built the spot at his place and parents' place, and then we were fortunate enough to get like the first wave of second, whatever you want to call it, like the Amesbury thing that Tom kind of talked about, how way back when they did, like him and Noah and others, they did like a lot of the legwork to be able to get the barriers down there and let it be cool, and that took forever. And then by the time, you know, like I said, they were more back in the community and stuff. We were fortunate enough to be able to actually like be their little helpers on like a real pour and like chip out that bank to curb. Like I skipped fucking study hall to go fucking build the bank to curb with fucking Tom.
And
like,
Avery?
Yeah.
That's so rad.
And like
You skipped study hall at Newburyport High School?
yeah, the corner wall too, the one that the barriers became. They brought the fucking concrete truck in that day, and it was just rad. That was like, I mean, you're just helping like care. You're doing minimal. You're just seeing it all, and then it's like you've got the hands-on experience on your little tiny quarter pipe over there, while the real dudes fucking do the thing. Like, and then you know, the spot at Rob's Outlaw Camp. It just doesn't really matter what it is. It was just rad having people that were like showed you the way, but not also like. Because there's definitely some people out there that try to like flex, and those are the people that kind of like feel like they have something to prove. That just like, oh, like shut up and do this, like you don't know what you're doing. If someone's like a fucking rad good person that's like confident and knows their shit can speak for themselves, they'll fucking if you're like whatever, like they'll fucking tell you how it is, and it's like. It's only going to be better if someone else knows how to do it, you know?
Right. Oh, you're saying like people that try to like hoard the knowledge?
Yeah,
in a
for
way?
sure. Whether
Yeah.
it's like at any, like if it's like a fucking, if you're at a job, you're cooking, if you're a fucking cabinet maker, like whatever. It's like if someone's gonna, that's like, you know, the tricks of the trade or the smoke and mirrors or something, just, you know? Especially especially if it's like the same community of people, you know, everyone's gonna be better off if you work together.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's easy for people to, you know, nobody's perfect.
Well, and it's like too, from like an ego perspective, right? It's like if you're like, I don't want any help, I'm doing this all by myself, you don't know what you're doing, I'm the man, it's all on me, it's all on you.
And
So-
more often than not, that comes from a place of like selfishness for wanting credit. To
Yeah.
take credit, which is, you know, not.
But also, at the same time, that's where I was going with this. If you do everything on your own and you don't accept any help from anyone, and it's like, it doesn't turn out that great, guess what? That's on you and your big fat ego.
Yeah.
And like, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I'm always like want to collaborate and have someone else's perspective, because chances are, like,
Yeah.
someone else's perspective is only going to elevate my own. That's how I kind of look at it.
No, and
You know?
a weird little thing I've noticed that is like rad now. It's like if you're building something with like a small group of, just in my experience, because it's just like not many, you know, like a small group of friends, and you have like dudes that like, you obviously have your friends and they're your friends for a reason, and you know, you probably know them through skateboarding, so there's just predetermined similarities probably, but it's like if you're building shit with someone that skates kind of different from you,
Oh, yeah.
that in my experience has had like the best results, because it's like, oh, like Tim's gonna hop around and jam up something super steep and find all these ways to fucking do whatever, and that's not really my MO, and I'm gonna want more of like something like mellow or like shit like that, and he's down for that stuff too, but he definitely wants there to be like an aggression factor and having to like, you know what I mean?
Work for something.
That's some of the best shit, where it's like you can actually kind of like see your friend's like style in the shit you're building, and it lets you figure out how to skate it better, because you're not just building exactly what you want and staying in your comfort zone.
Do you think there has to be like a foreman? Like, does there have to be someone who kind of knows what the thing is going to be, or can it just be like, let's just fucking start playing with some concrete and see what happens? Like, what is there a balance between that, or what's like with your project that you got going
in
right
my
now?
opinion,
Chill.
what we're doing right now is just kind of like a small project for fun with a couple friends. So it's just a very level playing field, and no one.
But like, is there a group text or something? Like,
Yeah, shit like that. Yeah, just communication, and there's planning, but there's no like hierarchy. Like if it's a project, if it's like a bigger project, if it's like a backyard thing or someone's property, or if it's just anything that's worth doing like really well, obviously there's someone. And if there's people willing to lend a hand that you know are more knowledgeable than you, then yeah, I mean, roles exist for a reason, and
Yeah.
everyone needs to know their role, but there's no there shouldn't be a hierarchy because the dude that shows up to come mix or whatever is just as helpful. But yeah, I don't know. It's rad being able to just build stuff with your friends and have fun, and while being in such a big skate city, because a lot of people, like, we tried to not really keep it under wraps with like social media and shit, and people still.
Wait, you tried?
We try, yeah. Like, we don't like post photos of it or anything.
But you wanted it to be like as low key as possible.
Yeah,
ideally?
just because like fucking how many hundreds of people skate. It just gets like blown out, and spots don't last forever. But a lot of people have come and helped out, and we had a lot of people volunteer money and time and haul concrete themselves. Was super encouraging for me, just being like having like random like people like, oh, like that tough dude you saw grinding the punk wall at Burnside was like super nice and brought you some, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And then all the dudes that like you, or not all the dudes, but it's just like some of the people you thought would have been more cool, like we're just like big talk, and that guy that you probably think like has an attitude was actually super cool.
Yeah.
So it is just a good like, I think skateboarding provides a lot of those humbling experiences,
Sure.
whether like the fact that you fucking need to take a slam every now and then to like, or shit like that, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, you can make assumptions about people and they could be the exact reverse.
Yeah.
Which is always good, because you don't want to get, no one wants to get too caught up like that.
It goes back to just like being open to like other people's help and collaborating with other people. Like, yeah, you guys could keep it for yourself and do it all on your own and have it be your little cruise thing.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, it's almost like the way the whole world is now, like with information and shit. Like
Yeah.
everything's kind of open source.
Yeah.
Like privacy is
for
like,
sure.
it's like crumbling.
And
So
there's always going to be some like tool bag guy that like comes, helps out for 20 minutes, takes a photo, and then tells all his friends like, look at what I did or whatever. And you can get all fucking, you know.
but even that,
you can
that's
drink
20 minutes of help, right?
At the end of the day, it's a foolish thing to have like a puffed out chest about. You know.
Yeah, I suppose anything is really, but
True.
you know.
True.
But right on, dude. Well, I don't know. Have we talked ourselves into a corner, or what's the
I
scoop?
think, yeah.
All right.
That was good though. You're right. The wrap up is the best.
It is.
The wrap-up's the best.
It's usually the wrap up is where it's at.
Organic, less pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it I feel like it would be totally weird if I was ever like, is there anything you want to say? And you were like, yeah.
Let
Let
me
me pull out my list. You
My
know, like-
prepared remarks
yeah.
are.
So I just rather keep it like loose.
Keep it flowing, baby.
Yeah, man.
I like it.
Thanks for doing this.
Love you, John.
Love you too, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good rips.